So, good evening, good evening, everyone. I just like to thank you guys for being a part of our midday with the master program this week. So, this week, what we're doing is really celebrating Father's Day. So, I got some fathers on here that I am so grateful to be a part of my life. And I'm thanking God for these two awesome men that are here with us today. And I'm not saying that they're mastering fatherhood now, but I am saying that there are men of integrity, men who are in the business world, men who are building military, and men who have raised their children. And a lot of times we just look over fathers and we play all this attention up on mothers. But I have to realize is that if they hadn't been a father, then that wouldn't be a child. So we thank God for the men today. We celebrate the men of God today. We got Mr. Hunter on with us, and we've been going through the master class with him, and it has been tremendously a blessing to me, even though I've been in business and for years and been doing things for years in business, but it is really pushing me to take it to the next level. And he's been helping us how to get out there in the marketplace and do better, pivot in this time of COVID-19. And I have with me my apostle. I thank God for Apostle Ham. I met him some years back. Him and his wife have been so faithful and so in helping and supporting me in things that we're getting ready to do in the ministry and things that I do business wise. So I appreciate them for being in my life. But one thing I like to say today is that I invited these men on to just be themselves, to be fathers, the great fathers that they are, and just to talk about how they're walking through the things that they're doing. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves first, and then we're going to come back with some questions on. We're going to put them in the hot seat with some questions. We're going to put them in the hot seat today and give us some questions that we know that they're going to come out on top with. So we're going to start with Mr. Hunter. Kind of introduce yourselves. Tell us what you're doing, where you're going, and what God is doing in your life, Mr. Hunter.
Well, of course, you see my name up there. You already said my name is James Hunter. I am the third. I'm James Yancey Hunter the third. My son is actually the fourth. I was born in Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, but I was raised in Philadelphia. And I was raised by both my parents. I spent a lot of time during the summer came back to the country because both of my grandparents had farms. And so as a kid growing up in a city, young kid, it was great to come down to go on a farm and, try to ride a pig like he's a bronco horse and, go fishing and, just all kinds of things that kids would love to do that you can't do in the city sometimes. And so I have had the benefit of growing up with both sets of grandparents and my parents. And I've been in the professional beauty industry ever since I got out of service. And I knew nothing about hair or hair care products. I had never sold anything in my life.
Well,
but I knew I wanted to dress up and go to work. And so that was that driving thing in me. And I was blessed enough because a lot of times when you think about what you want to do, or not a lot of times, but all the time, when your mind is focused, whatever it is focused on, and you focus on it with emotion and belief, then it will come to fruition. And so I happened to go to a beauty trade show just as I was being released out of the military. And I had never been to one of these events, so I'm standing at the back end of the Revlon booth. And these people were up on the stage cutting hair, and this guy had a microphone talking, and I stood up there for 3 days at the end of that stage. And on the third day, one of the gentlemen, who was a precision hair cutter, he came down. He said, "I noticed you've been standing here for 3 days. You think you would like to do this?" And I said, "What, cut hair?" He said, "Yeah." I said, No, I don't want to cut hair. I said, but I would love to be up on that stage with that microphone talking. And he said, really? I said, yeah. So he says, you see that guy right there? I said, yeah. He said, go talk to him. And this is exactly how this happened. All right. I did not go talk to this gentleman. But 1 month later, I was going into a hotel in New York City. He was coming out of that same hotel. Tell me if that's not destiny. And he saw me. He says, hey, I remember you. What you doing up here? I said, I came to visit a friend. He says, you interested in a job? I said, doing what? He said, working for Revlon. I said, sure, give me your card. I'll give you a call. And I think I bugged him for probably about a month every day because he was out of the country. And when he came back, he saw all these calls. His secretary said, this guy's been calling you every day. So I was what? Persistent. Now, I did not understand these things because at that time I was just turning 20 years old. And they did not want him to hire me because they said I was too young. I wouldn't be able to accept the responsibilities of having a company car, writing out my expense checks every week and this nature. But the guy said, well, we got to have to give somebody young an opportunity. And so I was the youngest person ever hired by Revlon Corporation. And I became the youngest corporate executive ever in Revlon's history. And how I met Mr. Dudley was I had the opportunity to move to Dallas, Texas. And I had been to every city in the United States except Dallas. And I didn't want to go to Dallas. But this company said if I was to move to Dallas, they would give me a distributorship. So, of course, I was trying to convince them to let me go to San Francisco, let me go to Houston, let me go to a city that I've been to before. And my girlfriend, who is now my wife at the time, she said, hey, James, look, you've been every place else. And plus, Dallas can't be that bad. They got a TV show. I said, what? TV show? So that's how I wound up in Dallas and sold about $250,000 worth of this product in 8 months. And the salesperson who actually worked for Deli Products, now let me back it up just a little bit. So I'm trying to tell this story in a lot. When I worked for Revlon, I always wanted to take some of the skill sets and the things that I had learned and work for a Black-owned company. Okay, so that was a desire that I had. And so I had an opportunity to work for a Black-owned company, but it lasts 1 month. So I didn't get discouraged. So 2 years, maybe it might have been 2 or 3 years later, I don't remember, but I still had that desire. And when I was in Dallas, Texas, this guy who worked for Deli Products, Mr. Deli asked him, why are your sales so low? And he told him, he said, man, this guy in Dallas, Texas, all the hairstylists are buying from him. So Mr. Deli said, buy him a ticket and bring him to North Carolina.
Whoa.
Now, my desire that I had previously, 3 years prior, 4 years prior of working for a Black-owned company, even though the first one that I worked for was a complete disaster, I still had the desire and the hope that that would come to fruition, and it did. And so that's how we developed that relationship. And it's been a wonderful relationship ever since.
Awesome. I been praying for Mr. Dudley. He was supposed to be on today, and we just thanking God for him and praying for him. He's an awesome man that in his 80s, still pouring in, still being a father, still pouring into people, and still trying to make the millionaires that he wants to make before he leave up out of here. And he's been pouring into us. And I remember a few months ago, I go to bed at 9 o'clock, and at 10:30, my phone rang, and it was Mr. Dudley. He said, what are you doing? I said, sleeping. Why are you sleeping? I don't know. He said, you need to be planning your tomorrow. What do you got planned for tomorrow? And I couldn't say anything, but oh, Mr. Dudley, I'm sleeping. I go to sleep. And this, he said, if you don't got your tomorrow planned, then you're planning to fail tomorrow. And from then on, I've been writing my little notes, planning on what I want to do tomorrow before I go to bed. So I appreciate him and thank God for him. I can't wait to get there to I told him I was coming and lay on the floor for a couple of days, let him lay hands on me and stuff.
Well, actually, I learned a great deal about doing business from Revlon. But when I came to Deli Products, I learned more about interpersonal relationship skills and the philosophy of Jesus Christ and the principles of nature and how they play a role in everything that we do. And so that was a key benefit for me because I had the best of both worlds, learning business and then learning the other side of interpersonal relationship skills and biblical principles, which is a philosophy of life,
Mm-hmm.
and then how to apply those.
Yeah, he
So
definitely
that
broke
was
that
that
down.
was yeah, that was great teaching, and that
Yeah.
came from Mr. Fuller to Mr. Dudley to Mr. Dudley to all of us.
Yeah, yeah, he doesn't do a conversation without his conversation always start off about the Lord. His conversation always end about the Lord. His conversation in the middle is always pulling that character out of you and developing something in you, the foundation of the Word of God. So I appreciate that so much in him. And if you get offended by it, that's your problem because it's definitely not his. Because he definitely going to represent who he loves and how he was successful. And it's through the word of God, through the written word of God, and using it and standing on that and that belief. So, Apostle Ham, I want you to introduce yourself, tell us what you're doing and the great things that God is doing in your life.
Well, amen. Well, thank you for having me. I am Apostle Ronald Ham. I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama. We're a home boy and home girl here.
Yes.
We didn't know each other then, but we know each other now. But immediately after high school, I enlisted into the United States Army, where I spent 20 years, 2 months, and 18 days serving the country, and been all over the world and in combat, and God has kept me thus far. But during that time, I met my beautiful wife, Dr. Sonia Ham, and from then on, it was on and popping. We have been doing a lot of work in Germany and Europe in ministry, working with the chapel systems, with the military, and also after that, God gave us the vision for Resurrection Life Ministries around 1996, I believe. And we started that ministry, started a church in Fort Polk, Louisiana, where I retired at. And then about 7 years ago, we moved to the Atlanta area where we have Empower Life Church. And she is working with finances, and many of you have seen her already on the show. I am presently the prelate of Apostolic Global Network, which is a network of leaders, generals in the body of Christ, apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers, where we're training and giving wisdom nuggets to those leaders who are coming up. And as an apostolic covering, spiritual father covering for many pastors all over the world, even in Pakistan and India, and just all over the world. And so I'm excited about that. I have 4 children, and who I'm very proud of. One of my youngest son served, I say served, but he was a part of the NFL, where he played for 4 different teams in the NFL. And now he has a business. You can't grow up in a Ham household and not understand business. And so he has a very lucrative, thriving business in Texas. It is a logistics company where you have a fleet of about 17 trucks, and just keeping America moving. The things that you receive is moving through those trucks. And so I just thank God for that. My other children are doing well, working in corporate America. And so I'm excited to, first of all, to be a man of God, and second of all, to be a father to those children that God has given. As a matter of fact, I don't have any more children. I have adults. I heard that earlier this week. I said, I don't have children. I have adults. I have grandchildren, but guess what? When it's time for them to go, all we have to say is, hey, come and get your children. All right. So I'm excited. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this broadcast on today, and meeting Mr. Hunter, and just excited about what's going to take place today. We do have a conference coming up. We'll talk about that later as you direct, Apostle, and that's it. I'll turn it back to you.
Well, I'm excited about you being in my life. Apostle, you and Dr. Ham has been the same from day one. And like you said, we grew up not that far from each other and not knowing each other. And it's amazing that we grew up in just about almost in the same community,
Mhm.
and when didn't know each other and met each other years later. So I thank God for that, because the foundation that was laid back there in Montgomery, Alabama,
Mhm.
it's still keeping us today, that unity, that peace and stuff. And so I feel like you a brother from another mother.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate you so much, your leadership. I appreciate your skills and the wisdom that you have for being such a young man. I appreciate that. You come with so much wisdom and instruction and so much strength in the Lord, and able to deliver that to us and lead us to where we need to be as leaders. It's good when a leader have a leader and someone that they can look up to and follow. Someone was telling me the other day, it's that when you start talking about your leader, negative things about your leader, it's time for you to find someone else to lead.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was telling myself, I don't have nothing negative to say about my leader, but I do have this to say: if I don't fall in line, he would definitely let me know I'm falling behind track. So I appreciate that so, so, so much for you. So we're going to just throw this question out there, and I'm going to let you, answer it the way you guys want to answer it. And you can just say it. So what the first question is: the Bible says to train up a child in the way that it should go. What do you feel like in your training your children help you to involve in training your children the right way, to nurture them the right way to go? So what are those things that you've done that you feel like you've done to train your kids the right way?
Well, I recall when my youngest son, he was actually born and he wasn't even walking. He was crawling around in the Deli Products meetings. I never forget one day, Mr. Deli said to me, and to Kim, you all don't know how to raise kids. You don't have experience in it. Send them kids to her mother who's in Germany and let her acclimate them into, being kind of disciplined in certain things, like going to sleep at a regular time, doing little things like that. And people thought we were crazy. And we sent both of our kids to Germany because he was right in a sense. I didn't have experience in raising kids, but she helped mold them with certain disciplines, going to bed early, things like that. Because my kids weren't going to bed early. They would say, oh, well, we go to sleep when my dad goes to sleep. Well, really? Who's running the household? And so on their return, I always look for advice from other people who have had that kind of experience. And so one day, Mr. Dudley came to me and he said, you know what, James? You can give your kids just about anything you want except two things. And I said, well, what's that? He said, you can never give them courage and you can never give them initiative. I said, well, how? He said, that you have to develop in them. So I asked him, well, how do I do that? What do I do? He said, take them door to door selling. And from that moment, as real young kids, I think the baby boy might have been 4 and the oldest one may have been 8. I took them out. I took them out selling door to door. I gave them a little speech, a little presentation how to do it.
That was cute.
And it was kind of amazing because kids don't fear anything. So if you teach them very young, they're not afraid to go up and knock on the door, especially when they want sneakers and things of this nature.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And so that helped develop in them initiative, which is key.
Yeah.
Because it takes initiative to go knock on a stranger's door. It also takes courage. Not everybody wants to do that, but it also developed in them the ability to articulate and fulfill a need that the person behind that door may have. And so they grew up not being afraid to interact and talk with people. So everything that I learned to train my boys from And I never had one day of a problem from either one of them, ever.
Mm.
Well, because I got both of them together when they was young, and I told them, listen, I'm a guy, you a guy. We may be able to, have a little difference. You can say what you want to say with me as long as you're respectful. But with your mom, I don't care what she says. If you don't like it, you will respect her because she took care of you, changed you when you couldn't change yourself, washed you when you couldn't wash. You will respect her. If not, I'm going to be in jail because you two are going to be in the ground. I've never had a problem.
Oh, okay. So you that was
Well,
that
I got that.
straight up. That was that spare. That was that not sparing the rod thing there.
Yeah, and well, and then I remember, I think in somewhere in the Bible it said King Solomon told the Hebrews or the Israelites, listen, if you want a strong Israel, give me strong women. Strong women are the backbone of any country, any race of people.
Amen. I think that as long as we stand behind our men and our men stand behind us and making decisions, I think we can raise strong kids and kids that were able to scale the things that needs to be scaled. Apostle Hale.
Yeah. I was when I look at training up a child, it's a difference in learning or teaching and training, because I can teach someone from a book, I could give them instruction, but the training is going to come in doing it. And so when the scripture says train up a child, it means that I have to show my children what they need to do. And it started, as my brother was just saying, it's very simple. I used to tell my son, the one that was in the NFL, I told him, I would tell him to take the garbage out, and then he would go and take the bag and go, but he would leave. He would not put another one in the garbage can. He would leave the top up, or he'll go in and get cereal and leave the milk out and go and eat his cereal. And I would always tell him, no, you have to finish the job. You have to make sure that you put a bag in the garbage can, make sure you put the milk back in the refrigerator. Now I could get mad, I can whip them if they don't do it, but no, that's not what training is. Training, people don't just learn from being whipped, they have to learn from being shown. More is caught than is taught. And so I would tell him, no, take it and put it back up. Let me show you how to do it. I want to make sure that you know what to do so that when I correct you, I understand that you know what to stand. And I just want to say something. I was in the military in 1988. I was in Korea, and I had a platoon sergeant. He told me, I want you to clean the stairwell in the building. We had like a 3-story building, and the stairwell needed cleaning because the general was coming through. He was going to inspect. And I said, okay. He said, you know what the standard is? I said, yeah. He said, I know you do. And so he went on. He didn't worry about it because I knew what the standard was. Well, I asked one of my soldiers who was under me to make sure that he buffed the stairwells and cleaned it and shined it and all that. But he was one of those problem soldiers, and I didn't even check him, And then, of course, the general comes by. It was nasty. It was buffed. It had wax on it, but I didn't tell him to strip it and to clean it and to mop it and then put wax on it. I just told him to wax it. And so after that, my platoon sergeant calls me to the office to give me a counseling statement. He says this. He says, he said, I know you know the standard. Why didn't you make sure that the thing was clean? And I said, well, the soldier that I have, he is the problem. He said, stop. He said, wait a minute. And he told me something that was, just stuck with me throughout the years. He said, listen, you can always delegate a task, but you can never delegate responsibility.
Whoa, say that again.
In other words, he might have did that or didn't do what he was supposed to do, but it was your responsibility. And so it's our responsibility as men, as fathers, to raise our children, to teach them how they should go. And so that just stuck with me. And so I would show my children how to do things. I would show them. I wouldn't just tell them, but I would go out and what we call in the military, the hands-on, leading by example, and then showing them what to do. And then I believe that's how you train up. And when we said train up a child, see, sometimes we take scripture and we make it so spiritual that we don't miss the understanding. It says train up a child in the way that they should go. In other words, show them what they need to do so that when they get old or when they're mature or when they're on their own, where you can't show them what to do, they will know what to do. Right. And so, you know, that sticks with me. I take it, not only our children, but as you all was talking about Mr. Dudley, he's a father, whether it was a biological or he was someone that was a mentor. Every man, I believe, whether you have physical children or not, you have the response ability, the ability to respond, the ability to teach children the way that they should go, so that when they get older, when you're not around, they know what to do.
Amen. I truly agree with that, because children, to me, they most certainly will catch what they see than what you read them or keep trying to beat down in them. You know, they'll catch it so quickly if you show them and teach them. And, you know, I own the janitorial business. So when you was talking about the garbage, I was going on, it flashed me back of some of the training that I had to do with janitorial folks. And I was telling them, you can work quicker if you learn how to put, you know, you're going to change the garbage every day for the next 6 days. So put 6 garbage, put 6 clean ones in there. So when you pull that one out, all you got to do is just go back. It saved you time from going back and trying to remember. And one lady told me, she said, man, that's a lazy way of doing things. No, that's a smart way of doing what you got to do. And that way, it's a way to make you to remember that I do have to put my garbage can back. I'm removing one, so one needs to come back. So yes, definitely implement what we're supposed to be doing, you know, and things in life. So I appreciate you guys so much for saying that. We do have to train our children, not just scold our children or tell our children what to do. We do have to train our children on what to do. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, Apostle Ham, he hit that right on the head. You know, you show them the way and how to do it. And when they get older, we may have forgotten that we said that to them, but they hadn't forgotten it.
Yeah. That's true.
I remember my son was ironing his shirts before, you know, going to work, and Kim and I were there, and he began to tell me, he said, Dad, he said, I remember all the things you told us. I said, such as? He said, well, I remember when you said, when your wife is pregnant, always treat her wonderful, treat her nice. Because if you don't and she's evil, that spirit is going to be passed along to that baby, and that baby going to come out evil. And, you know, and I said, wow, I didn't tell you that. And he said, but no, he said, Dad, it made so much sense. He says, because look at Vivian, the baby. She is happy. Why? Because his wife was happy, and she didn't pass those feelings along to him. And that was something that I learned from Dudley Products, because Mr. Dudley walked up to me one day and said, you like conflicts. And he walked away from me. I said, wow, why did he tell me that? So that night I went home and I started thinking, all right, he says I like conflicts. Why did he say that to me? So immediately I called my mom. I said, hey, Mom, when you was carrying me, what was going on? Where were you living? And then she began, I was staying with your grandmother. She always had a whole lot of mess going on and blah, blah, this, that, and the other. And then the next morning I went to Mr. Dudley and I said, I know why you said that to me. He said, come on in the office. And we had a conversation. And I told him what I did. He said, that's exactly why I said that to you, because I knew that you would go find out exactly what I meant. He said, you're diplomatic enough to know to come to people and talk with them about something that you may have had a disagreement about. He said, but you would hold it so that you can hold on and say, yeah, well, I know they did this to me, so they probably gonna do this, instead of just coming to them and talk about it. So, you know, I took that I learned from him and I passed it on to my son. So
that's a part of training. That's a part of training, you know, also is to watch our emotions, our attitude toward we treating someone and
right.
and the purpose of why we're doing it, intentionally do good. Sometimes we intentionally do wrong. So let's intentionally treat each one like we want. My mom used to always tell me to always treat someone like you want to be treated, and if you don't respect yourself or don't have value on yourself, no one else will have value on you either or for you either. So, yeah, we definitely have to train our kids in the way that they should go. But we have to be the partaker of that and be the example of that. And I think it works with mom and dad both training and the mom and the dad both agreeing to solidify each other in the training, because sometimes it brings such a stare in the household when one is training one way and one is training the other way. And so you definitely have to get on that same pathway on how you're going to train your kids. So, hey, we have Dr. Sonia Ham who have joined us today. We thank God for her, amen, having time to join us today, and we
Just
appreciate
listening
her
in. Yeah, she's just on.
joining us. But we appreciate that. So this is the next
Well,
question.
can I say one other thing before we move on?
Sure.
Also, in training up a child, we have to also recognize and realize that they're training us too.
Woo!
That it is a mutual thing, even though we have a responsibility. I just two quick things. The first thing is my daughter, my youngest daughter. We were in Germany, and Miss Anna, you know about Germany. We was in Wiesbaden, Germany, and that was this place called kind of like Toys R Us. And I was looking. I had her there. She was small, and they had all these little toys on the bottom row. And I said, you can get whatever you want. You can get whatever you want. So she looked at all these little toys, cost 50 cents and $1. And she said, I want that one and that one and that one. And I said, okay. Then I pick her up. I said, is that all you want? So when I picked her up, all the big toys were on the top there.
Yes,
And then her
Lord.
eyes got big and she said, oh no, she threw the little pieces down and she said, I want that and that. And that's $20 and $40.
Right.
And so I told her, I said, so you have to understand that where you are and what you see, it determines your desire. And she said, wow. Ooh. So fast forward 20 something years later, I can't remember what we was believing for. And I was like, this ain't going to happen. And she said, Dad, remember what you see determines your desire. So do you see yourself there? And so even as a little kid, she was probably 5, 6 years old, I believe, or a little bit older, but no, she was about 5 or 6. And I taught her that, but then she turned around as she's older. Now she's reminding us, as my brother said, they'll remind you, and you say, did I say that?
Yeah.
And then my son told me, I said, what did you learn in school today? He was he was actually in kindergarten. I said, what did you learn today? He said, well, I learned that if I want to go right, I have to push left. And if I want to go left, I got to push right. If I want to go up, I got to push down. If I want to go down. And I sit there and I thought about that thing. And I said, you know what? That's a sermon. Wherever you're trying to go, you have to resist, the opposite. In other words, if you want to be successful, you got to resist failure. Don't mean that you won't fail sometime, but you have to not try to. You have to do the things that's going to push you into the direction that you need to go. And then fast forward years later, he brings it back to my memory of what I taught him. And he said, no, Dad, you got to push and you got to keep moving forward. And I tell you, it's just, so I know that training up a child, when he get old, he shall not depart, doesn't mean that they may fall in something. It don't always mean that they're going to encounter something, but also can mean that you may encounter something and then your child will be the one, or your adult will be the one to get you back straight and online. So I just like how God orchestrated that thing together and gave us the instruction of what we need.
Need to bring us back, to give us that insight. You know what, you guys have answered the second question. So about the foundation and things that we need to give our kids to be able to just thrive in the world today, because I think if we learn how to train, teach them, and develop them when they're young, when they get to age accountability, when they get to that adult age, they're able to make conscious decisions for themselves and not panic on it. I look at some people, think that they're not kids anymore. They're 40 and 60 years old, still can't make decisions for their life. They still stumbling and still falling and failing in life themselves because they haven't learned the foundation and haven't learned the things that somebody, my mom used to say all the time, if you don't learn it this time, you'll learn it the next time.
Next time, yeah.
If you didn't learn it the next time, then God don't care. If you're 99 years old and still in kindergarten, you will not move from kindergarten to first grade until you learn. So you're going to learn through your failures to be able to thrive and drive in life. So I appreciate you guys for that. This is good to me. I'm learning. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, and leaving a legacy is something that you think that Black parents should be thriving and sharing with our kids today. Because I think it's so important to me. I think it's important for us to start teaching, our kids on legacy. We have such a rich legacy, but I think we're one of the culture that don't teach our children about the legacy that we have and about the impact that Black men and women have had on society. I know with Mr. Dudley, he trained up his kids and his kids are actually running his organization now. And a lot of times when I first came to Detroit and I went by the Madam Walker plant and it was falling all in and it had all the hair things and everything on the inside. And it really hurt my heart. And I was asking, I said, well, why didn't someone in her family take this on? And the lady turned to me and she said, no one wanted it. No one saw the advantage of taking her legacy to the next level. So what do you guys think about leaving a legacy and building that foundational legacy for your children and teaching your children to build a legacy for you guys?
Who you want to go?
It doesn't matter. Just jump in.
I figured I was going first all the time. I would let Apostle Ham go because I'm enjoying what he's saying. I'm over here writing some notes.
Yeah, I'm taking notes too.
Legacy. I wrote a book called Real Men, Real Talk. It was really targeting men and the father-son relationship. And the chapters 11 of that is leaving a legacy for future generations. So legacy is defined as leaving something, whether it's something tangible or intellectual property or influence, whatever it is that you leave for the next generation. Actually skips a generation. For Proverbs 22:1 says, a good man leaves an inheritance. That inheritance is a legacy to his children's children. So my grandchildren is where my focus is, because I've trained up my children to be adults. Now my focus is to make sure that a legacy is left for the generation after that. Whenever God, most of the people that God used, if not all, were legacy people. They didn't know at the time, they didn't know. And so we have, especially in the African-American community, when I was growing up, it's like, as soon as you turn 18, you got to get out of my house. You got to go and you got to do your own thing. And that's fine as far as trying to get your children to do something and not sit around. But I think it also put into the mindset that I got to go and struggle. And most of the families did not set up for their children to be successful because they was dealing with poverty themselves. And so, now God, there's so many opportunities for us to not be in poverty, for us to be wealthy. And wealthy is not just in the amount of money that you have, but it is in the wisdom that you have. And so when I leave something to my children's children, I'm leaving my legacy. And it's very important, because as long as what you left is spoken of, you are still alive here on the earth. I mean, just think about it. Some of the forefathers, George Washington, every time someone speaks his name, he becomes alive to them now. And so when you leave that legacy, when my grandchildren are able to say, my papa left this for me, my yaya, that's what they call Dr. Ham, they left us this, you know, and then they can pass it down to their children, say, this is what your great grandfather left, you know. I tell my grandchildren, you all make me grand. And then, you know, when I get some great grandchildren, they're going to make me great, you know, and I instill that into them and set up ways for them to be successful. And I think this is where we should be focused on now. Right now, where we are, we've come into some great opportunities. And, you know, it is imperative that we, first of all, the reason why some of them don't want it is because they were never involved. And so when we don't involve our children in things, I'm not saying that's the case all the time, but they'll be motivated when they're there, when they see, and when they don't see you struggling and complaining about what you got to, you know, man, these church people are just getting on my nerve. Well, they're not going to want to do that. They got to see the joy in what we do if we're going to leave that and pass that legacy down to them and to their children, you know. And my sons, neither one of them wanted to go in the military because I complained about it, even though I knew that if it was not for the United States Army, I would still be in Montgomery, Alabama, or dead, or, you know, in worse shape than what I am now. It helped me a lot to get out of there, a place where there's no industry and nothing was growing, you know. And they didn't want to be a part of it, first of all, because they didn't see the joy that I had. I miss it, but I don't. I don't know if you can understand that, but I complained about it a lot. And so if we're going to leave legacy, we got to make it exciting for our children and let them see the benefit of holding on to what we've started. You know, if we look at Disney, you know, all of the big names that are still, your Sam Walton with Walmart, the children are experiencing the blessing of what he started because he passed it on and they saw the benefit of continuing it. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
That's a good take. That's a really good take because I like the fact that you talked about many times people think legacy has to be a lot of money. No, it could be history. It could be philosophy. Yes. It could be anything that can help the next generation improve themselves beyond what the previous generation. And since you had said that, Apostle Ham, that's while you were talking, I started reflecting back of those door-to-door taking my kids selling and how that in itself is a legacy, because now the oldest one is really up big in Morgan Stanley finance. And he worked with his mother a lot during the summer. And one particular summer, he didn't want to do something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then I said to him, well, listen, your mother really needs you to do that. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I said, yes, but she needs you to do that. I mean, you're out of school for the summer. You're earning all this money. She needs for you to help do this. Well, Dad, you know, I know she may, but I don't want to do it. I said, okay, well, fine. I tell you what you do. You give me the keys to the car that she bought. And he was a sophomore riding in a Saab Turbo in college. Kids thought that he might have been selling drugs because he had a car, he had plenty of money.
Yeah.
And I said, you give me that keys to them cars, you give me the invoice book. He said, what are you doing? I said, you're fired. Go work for somebody and you tell them what you want to do and what you're not going to do. Ooh. How am I going to get home? I said, I don't care how you get home. Walk. His mother would have never done that to him, but guess what? He went and he stayed with my cousin who did the Budweiser commercial for What's Up? You know, he lives in New York City. And he went and stayed with him to go work at a hedge fund company. Because he had worked with his mother and in sales, he was the best cold call salesperson on the phone. That's what got him to Morgan Stanley.
Mhm.
And he had to take these series of tests. Well, he passed all of them except the Series 7. Well, what I found out is that most of these companies, they get rid of you if you can't pass that Series 7 because it costs them like $10,000 to pay for you to take this test.
Wow.
So he didn't pass it the first time, nor did he pass it the second time. But Morgan Stanley kept him because they said they had never had a young person like him that could cold call sell on the phone. And he had some gentleman from London who was a multimillionaire wanted to come over and do some investing in America. And my son was talking to him. And he told the people at Morgan Stanley, the only way he would come to America and invest with them is if he did it with my son. And so that was a great feeling because I reflect back, that's all from what? When Mr. Dudley told me, you could never give them initiative and you could never give them courage. You have to develop that in them. And so he had in turn is doing that with his daughter. And I had to share with him. He was talking about how she loves to do all these different things. And I said, that's because you and Rachel do not prevent her from learning. If she wants to wash the dishes, you guys let her get up there and wash the dishes. You'll put a little chair there. She gets up and she washes. Mm-hmm. So now he has another daughter, and guess what she wants to do? She wants to change her diaper. She wants to do all these different things. So they make learning a fun. So when kids are in that kind of environment where learning is fun, where you don't try to stop them from doing it. You may show them how to do it, encourage them how to do it, but not tell them, oh, no, don't do that. No, get out of the way. You're in the way. If you let them work with you and you take them by the hand, it makes learning fun. So then when they go to school, learning is fun. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you develop that in them when they're very young. So Apostle Ham, that's why I was writing notes. So that's why I wanted you to go first so I could piggyback off of that because you said some great things. And my son went to a military academy.
Wow.
Yeah. Miss Dudley would give me speeches to do or speaking engagements every time I would come back in town. So this particular day, she said, James, how long are you going to be here? I said, I don't know, Miss Dudley, maybe like a week and a half. Good. I need you to go to Oak Ridge Military Academy and give a speech. They're looking for somebody to come and be a guest speaker. So I went to this school, this academy, and it's the oldest one in the United States, and it's a co-ed, and it's right in Oak Ridge, North Carolina. And I went and I gave a speech, and the officer invited me back for a family picnic. And I said, well, can I bring my family? He said, sure. So at that time, my son was in the 6th grade. So when I brought him on the campus, he said, Dad, I want to go to this school. I said, man, this is a military school. He said, yeah, but you were in the military. I said, yes, I was, but I don't think you're going to want to go to a military. He said, but didn't you have discipline? I said, yeah, but when I went in, it was totally different. I was in war. It's not, So anyway, he said, but yeah, Dad, but that will give me the discipline for the things that I want to do in life. Now, he said, this is sixth grade. I said, okay, fine. And so I took him there. And at that time, they were getting rid of the 6th grade program and just going to go 7th grade on. So he had to wait a year. So when I took him to register him, the first thing they asked me, okay, well, why are you sending your son here? I said, I'm not sending him here. He wants to come here. And they said, what? He wants to come to a military academy? And but he excelled very well. He became a master sergeant. All the new recruits that came to Oak Ridge Military Academy, when they would call home, they would talk about my son, how he helped them tie their ties. He helped them spit shine the floor. Whatever he asked them to do, he showed them how to do it. Wow. And so, and all of that is attributed to what? To coming up in a philosophy. And Mr. Dudley told all of the parents, bring your kids here. Let them see what you're doing. Let them be in the meetings. Don't worry about if they run around. They're listening. Yes, they're running around playing, but they're still listening. And what are they doing? They are observing their mother and father at a business meeting, learning how to conduct business. And so what Apostle Ham said is, it's so true. All of what he spoke about, you teach them, you lead them, you show them the way. And we may forget later on that we told them, but they don't forget. And and whatever we taught them doesn't forget them. And so that's what I meant by coming to Deli Products. I had a enlightenment of a new philosophy and principles and things of that nature. And that has been so wonderful that I could share those types of teaching and that legacy that came from Mr. Fuller, came from Mr. Dudley. It's given to me. Now he has it. Now both of my sons pass it on to their kids.
Wow, that's awesome. You guys practically answered the next question was in
We
your
just
own
fans.
which spared me from answering that. And in your own words today, what do raising your kids look like from the time when you were? And I know it is so different raising kids now than the time that you were raising your kids and when you was being written up. Because I look at some things now. My mom, when you had mentioned some things about, my mom used to tell me, "Girl, I ain't gonna let you get in my kitchen and mess up my food." Trying to teach you how to cook. You learn how to cook on your husband, and so she never will allow me to come in the kitchen and learn how to cook, from her. But my grandmother was just the opposite. My grandmother would show us different recipes and show us different things on what to do. And so I years ago I was in Alabama and visiting my daughter, and she said, "Mom, you never showed us how to make your pound cake." And she said, "I want to know how to make your pound cake." And I said, "Well, everybody I give this recipe to come back and say that I did not give them the right recipe. And because their pound cake don't come out like mine." And I said, "So I'm gonna take you step by step. We're gonna do everything. You're gonna shatter me on how to make this cake." And so she did. She actually shadowed me in everything. And she said, "I never saw you put that last ingredient in." And she said that, "I never saw the way that you was making it. I make my cakes totally different from the way you make your cakes." So sometimes it's different. You can give a person a recipe, but if you don't actually show them, train them how you mix it and put it together, it'll end up being tasting different than it was from the one. So my grandmother used to always say, "Always add a dash of love before you finish the recipe." And so I always add a dash of love. And when I'm training or when I'm doing something to help someone, I think it helps them a little bit more when you add a dash of love in there. You put some type of encouragement in there and show them that you're just mentoring them, helping them, and coaching them through life. So, like the word of God says, when they're old, they'll come back, like Pastor Ham said, they'll come back and try to tell you what you told them years ago, and training of them and tutoring and helping them, molding them, shaping them into the men and women that they are today. So I appreciate your mom, your dad's, molding you and shaping you and steering you the right way, to be the parents that you can be, to mold and shape the young men and women that you guys have today, and that you would teach them how to train their kids. And that's what I'm hearing from both of you, that even your grandchildren now are being taught the things and the basic things. And sometimes legacy. I was listening at this little program, and it was talking about how the woman went in and asked her mom, "Mom, why do you cut the end of the ham off?" And I'm sure all of you
Oh, yeah.
heard that one. And I was going, that is so true.
True.
We do things because our parents was doing it. So time have changed. So what difficult it is now to raise a child. I'm glad I'm a grandparent in this day of raising kids, I am so glad that I'm a grandparent. I can look at them, keep them for a couple of days, and then send them home. And when I was in Alabama for 30 days, so a couple of months back, I was in Alabama for 30 days with my grandkids, and I wanted to say something, and I look at my daughter, and she was say, I already know. I already know what you're gonna think. I already know what you're saying. I already know what your mind is gonna say. But this is how I do it. This is how I raise my kids. And I said, okay, hands off, not gonna say anything. I said, but just let me know later on. Like my mom told me one day, she said, I just pray to God that I live long enough to see you raise a child. So I told my daughter, I said, I just pray long enough that I live long enough to see that one when she gets your age, how she gonna respond to things that's being done today. So just some last words, takeaway that we can say to the men and women out there today.
You
So
can
either
go.
one of you guys could say some last things, and Apostle Hamler, you can make me back the host again, so I can after you finish your presentation, then you make me back the host.
Well, for me, I'd be really quick. I think, yes, times change, everything is an evolution. But I do believe and I think principles and philosophies remain the same. And it's how we present those it will determine how they will be received by each generation to come. It's how we present it. I mean, that the philosophy and the principles are like, you can plant a watermelon seed. It is not going to come up a pumpkin.
Ooh.
So I will attract everything to me that I need to make and keep me who I am. Once I understand that principle, and God's principles and doesn't change, then I have a better understanding. And I think that's what I mean by that. Philosophies and principles, they remain the same. It's just how we present it to that age group, because they're going to receive things a certain way.
Yes.
And I learned this very quickly in sales from a bum. He was a wino. And he was begging me for money, but he was walking alongside me. And I said, you do this every day. Why do you walk beside me? He said, because I know you're going to give it to me if I walk beside you. But if I try to stop you and impede your progress, you're going to tell me no.
Yeah.
I said, oh, I got to use that in sales.
Come on now.
Impede them, walk along and help them fulfill a need or a lack that they have. And that's good salesmanship. So yeah, principles and philosophies stay the same. It's just how we present them. And Apostle Ham.
Yes, sir.
May I have your phone number?
Yes, I will. I'll give it.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, I put it.
But I don't. They say don't put them in chats because they get hacked and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll send it to you.
Just ask.
Yeah,
I'll send it to you
guys if it's being broadcast on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Right.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
And one of the reasons why I asked, because you mentioned your son has a fleet of trucks in Texas. What part of Texas?
Grand Prairie, right outside of Dallas.
Oh yeah, right outside of Dallas, right near Duncanville.
Yeah,
I used to live in Duncanville. Yeah, I like to speak with him about some trucking things.
Okay, all right, great.
That's the purpose of me asking. Okay, now go ahead. I'm ready. Go ahead, Apostle Ham. I'm ready to write what you're going to talk about.
Well, I'm just going to say, you said what is the challenge of raising children today? The number one challenge we're on right now, that's YouTube. YouTube is raising children. And I saw something the other day that says you can look at Facebook and YouTube and get your information, but you still need the wisdom from grandmama. So you have a lot of people, and people, can share different things. And some people that are sharing stuff haven't even been through any type of training. They just passing their own ideologies and thoughts. And some are good, but some are not. And even the little ones, the young ones, just think about it. Children now don't look at program TV. They're watching YouTube and videos and TikTok and stuff like that. And I believe that we have to get on those platforms too and begin to train and to teach so that we can train people up in that way as well. But I've had an awesome time today just sharing. Another thing is that men so many times, because maybe in the past you haven't done what you're supposed to do, and a lot of times shame and guilt keep people from advancing and going forward. And so what you have to do is understand understand that your past failure or your past success should not be an impediment to your future. So you may have done well in the past and you think you've arrived. The Apostle Paul said, I haven't arrived yet. He said, but I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. So I am always pressing. You got to understand something. You're never successful. Now you can walk in success, but for something to be full means that nothing else can be added to it. And so the reason why the Apostle Paul says I'm pressing towards that perfection is because until the day I leave here, I am still pressing. You understand? I'm still open for success, whether I've been successful in the past or even now. I may have to change the gig, but I haven't changed the principle, as my brother just said. And so forget those things. The first thing is that we got to forgive, and then we have to forget those things which are behind, and we have to press toward. Today is the day that you can start being the father that you should be, being the husband and the man that you should be, is always today. Now watch this. There's a supernatural word in the Bible, and it's a common word that many of us don't even think about. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for. That word now means that it is not in the past and it's not in the present. It is now. So 2 seconds ago, I said now, that's past. But as long as I can keep now in the forefront of my mind that, okay, I slipped and I failed, but now I'm getting up. Now I'm moving. And every day it says to renew your mind in him, right? Be not conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. How do I renew my mind? Through now. Now is now faith. So I have a now faith every time, even if I slip and fall, even if if I have some success in this area, I'm still in the now. I'm still trying to walk in this supernatural place that God has preordained for us. I mean, man, you're not defined as a man because you're strong and you have muscles. You got bodybuilding women. You're not defined because you're in the military. We got women fighting in the military. You're not defined because you're a police officer. We have female police officers. So a man can get confused as to what his role is, but society determines roles, but God determines responsibility. Okay. And that responsibility to us is, God said, Adam, what happened? Where you been? He said, we heard you coming. He said, who told you you was naked? Who told you? That serpent told him, I told you don't, I'm paraphrasing. I told you don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good. Then he says, but that woman you gave me is the one that gave it to me to eat. Just like my platoon sergeant said in 1988, you can delegate a task, but you can't delegate responsibility. I told you, and so we have to get ourselves in that place and say, okay, I'm gonna pick myself up as a man. I might have failed in some areas. I've been successful in some areas, but I've failed in some areas. But now it's a supernatural time that I can get this thing right. And even if my children are adults now, there are still some things I can teach them. There's some things they can teach me, but I still have, God has given us a supernatural wisdom. Come on, somebody. You know how to deal with your children. I may not know how to deal with your children, but you know how to deal with it. There is something supernatural about that father-son relationship. And when I say son, I'm not talking about male, because the daughter is a son as well. It is a principle, as my brother was speaking, that principle of the father-son relationship and what it entails. Okay. All right. You wanted me to talk about the conference?
Yes, I do. I want you to talk about the conference.
Okay, so we have the Apostolic Global Network. If you're looking for a covering or just to mentor, or I believe that God has set me as a spiritual covering to be able to apostolically cover the fivefold ministry. So We have a conference, a virtual conference is going to be happening on June the 25th through the 27th, and I'll pop the flyer up if that's okay. I'll pop
Yes.
the flyer up, and let me play a video real quick. This is one of our speakers. He is an actual actor. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Some of you have seen him on this big screen.
Hello, friends and family, and grace, mercy, and peace be multiplied unto you on this day. My name is Elder Jerome.
It's not loud, Apostle.
Provided by Apostle
Okay.
Ronald Ham and First Lady Sonia Ham to be a part of their apostolic global.
Okay, I'm gonna start it over. Can you hear it now?
Hello, friends and family, and grace, mercy, and peace be multiplied unto you on this day. My name is Elder Jerome Preston Bates, and I've been invited by Apostle Ronald.
Not as loud as it could be, but
Sonia Ham to be a part of their Apostolic Global Network presents Shift Virtual Conference. Shift Virtual Conference on June 25th through 27th. There will be guest ministers and pastors worldwide, as well as musical guests. You don't want to miss it. You can register free at apostolicglobalnetwork.com. Once again, Shift Virtual Conference, June 25th through 27th. See you there. God bless you and keep you.
Okay, and so that is, let me unshare my screen here. Okay, all right, so you don't see that anymore. So that is just one of the promo videos that we have out, and you saw the flyer in there, so I don't need to pull that up. But if you want to register, it's free registration. We do want you to register, and it is at shift.apostolicglobalnetwork.com. And you can go there and register for the conference. So that's it.
Got it.
I'm excited about the conference, and all I know I didn't do my part like I supposed to, so I'm hitting myself on the hand. But I thank God and getting people to register. So we do want you guys to register and be a part of it. It's no cost, as Apostle said, to be a part of this conference. And you don't want to miss this time, because this is a time that God is getting ready to shift us into the next 6 months. And I truly believe for the next 6 years, this is going to give us the format that we need. So you got prophets and apostles that are coming on that's going to speak rhema word into your life that will give you the strength, the wisdom, and momentum to go on for the rest of this year. I truly believe that the first part of this year, the first 6 months of this year, was the time for us to personally get ourselves together, get ourselves in alignment, get our character and emotion stuff in alignment, because the next 6 months, we're going to be so busy doing ministry. We're going to be so busy doing things that God have already shifted, put things in place for us as the church to gather together to come. I think this is no longer a long ranger thing. The church was shut down to bring us back together to be a part of a global thing that he's getting ready to do. So don't miss shift. You don't want to miss it. You want to be a part of it. You want to be a part of it. So register. Go on and register. You can go on my Facebook page and go on Apostle Ham Facebook page and get information that you need to be able. You can also go on the Biz Hub and find the information that you need. And Mr. Hunter, what are you doing? What are you getting ready to do in this season? I know we're just about getting ready to finish up our master class. I think we got one more class left in that.
Right. And then Kim and Mr. Deli and I he's working on the laws of success. There was a book about that thick that was written by Napoleon Hill, but Think and Grow Rich came from the laws of success.
Yes.
So that's going to be a study book. And we're going to study that and take the laws of success book along with Mr. Fuller's book and cross-reference it. But it's a book that we're going to study. So it won't be, we will read the chapter individually by ourselves, but then when we come on the class meeting, we will collectively read it together, because when you have like minds together as they say, with one or two or more come together in my name, there I am. So
Yeah.
everybody will be in the right spirit to receive whatever it is that they're looking for to receive.
Yes.
All
So that
right.
should be good.
Yeah.
And I think that won't be until sometime in July.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Hammer, if you can make me, Apostle Hammer, you can make me back the host again. One of the things too, you know, that 6 hour reading that Mr. Dudley.
Oh,
Oh my God. That's 6 hour reading. You know, it's amazing to me. I'm a reader. I like to read. I used to make my kids read in the summertime, and they had to write me an essay when they was out of school during the summertime. They had to read 2 books and write me a essay in order for them to get some of the things that they wanted to do during the summertime. So I am an avid reader. I have so many books and things that matter of fact, I got 3 books that I'm reading right now. So I love to read, but it's over a period of time. But to sit and read, I was going, oh my God, I don't know where in the world I'm gonna have enough time of the day to sit and read for that long. But it takes discipline to do anything that you want to do in life. And my girlfriend used to always say that poor people entertain themselves and rich people educate themselves. So I,
That's
I,
true.
and I think that is so true that poor people always find a way to entertain themselves.
entertain
And rich people
Ah,
always are thriving and finding some way to improve themselves. And so I want to be in that line where I am learning how to improve myself and do more and things. So I appreciate you. Takeaway today, you know, is just my thing. What I learned, what my takeaway today is that I'm learning to be the mother that I'm supposed to be, and being the person that I can train someone to reach that level that they need to be at. And we as being parents to train our children, amen. Just don't tell them, teach them, but train them, show them, allow them to see you doing what you telling them to do. Because a lot of times I can remember my grandmother used to say is you can tell a person anything, but they're watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
You can say anything to a person, but they're watching what you're doing. And so the greatest thing for me in the church, I always say, people may not pick up a Bible and read it, but they read you every day. They read you every day of what you're doing, how you're doing. Someone told me the other day, well, you ain't been sick. I see you on Facebook. But what they don't realize is don't take too much to sit up and be on Facebook. No, is what you see after the Facebook and how you feel after Facebook. But I thank you guys for your prayers and support that you're giving me. So we appreciate you for stopping by on another midweek with the Masters. We appreciate you. Biz Hub is getting ready to launch a new platform in the next couple of weeks, and we want you guys to be a part of it. You can go now to the new bizhubmedia.com and be a part of that. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being a part. We thank God for you, and good evening.
okay, thank you. And you'll get in contact with me and give me Apostle Ham's number.
If you
Actually, I'm finna do that right now. Pastor Ham, can you make me the host? So we can.
I don't know how to do that. Are you still broadcasting though on?
Yes, it's still live. So I need you to make me the host. So go over to the thing where it says
No, you
more.
can call later. Yeah, you can call me later or text it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and leave out, and we all just leave out, and
Yeah,
if you
and
can
you
just
send it
hit,
to me later.
but if you could go to the more where you see more there on the screen,
Uh-huh.
and
More.
it's on the more, it should have host or
Just say stop live stream. That's all it